What is self inquiry? Part 2. G.V. Subramania asked from Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharishi, is it stated in any book that for ultimate and final realization one must ultimately come to the heart, even after reaching the Sahasra, the thousand petal lotus, the center in the crown of the head, and that the heart is at the right side? Bhagwan said, no, I have not come across this in any book, although in a Malayalam book on medicine I came across a stranger locating the heart on the right side, and I have translated it into Tamil in the supplement to the 40 verses. We know nothing about the other centers. We cannot be sure what we arrive at by concentrating on them and realizing them, but as I arises from the heart, it must sink back and merge, therefore, self realization. Anyway, that has been my experience. Know that the pure and changeless self awareness in the heart is the knowledge which, through destruction of the ego, bestows liberation. The body is inert like an earthen pot. Since it has no I consciousness, and since in deep sleep, when bodiless, we experience our natural being, the body cannot be the I. Who then is it that causes I ness? Where is he? In the heart cave of those who thus inquire and who know and abide as the self. Lord Arunachala Shiva shines forth as himself as that am I consciousness. Devotee asked, Bhagwan was saying that the heart is the center of the self. Bhagwan said, yes, it is the one supreme center of the self. You need have no doubts about that. The real self is there in the heart behind the ego self. Devotee asked, will Bhagwan please tell me where in the body it is? Bhagwan said, you cannot know it with your mind or picture it with your imagination, although I tell you that it is here, pointing to the right side of the chest. The only direct way to realize it is to stop imagining and try to be yourself. Then you automatically feel that the center is there. It is the center spoken in the scriptures as the heart cavity. Devotee asked, can I be sure that the ancients meant this center by the term heart? Bhagwan said, yes, you can, but you should try to have the experience rather than locate it. A man doesn't have to go and find where his eyes are in order to see. The heart is there, always open to you, if you care to enter it, always supporting your movements. Although you may be unaware of it, it is perhaps more correct to say that the self is the heart. Really, the self is the center and is everywhere aware of itself as the heart or self awareness. Devotee asked, when Bhagwan says that the heart is the supreme center of the spirit or the self, does that imply that it is not one of the 6 yogic centers? Chakra. Bhagwan said, the yogic centers, counting from the bottom upwards, are a series of centers in the nervous system. They represent various stages, each having in its own kind of power or knowledge, leading to the Sahasra, the thousand petaled lotus in the brain, where is seated the supreme Shakti power. But the self that supports the whole movement of the Shakti is not located there but supports it from the heart center. Devotee asked, then it is different from the manifestation of Shakti. Bhagwan said, really, there is no manifestation of Shakti apart from the self. The self became all these Shaktis when the yogi attains the highest state of spiritual awareness, samadhi. It is the self in the heart that supports him in that state, whether he is aware of it or not. But if his awareness is centered in the heart, he realizes that whatever centers or states he may be in, he is always the same truth, the same heart, the one self, the spirit that is present throughout, eternal and immutable. The Tantra Shastra calls the heart Surya Mandala or the solar orb, and the Sahasra as Chandra Mandala or lunar orb. This shows the relative importance of the two. Devotee asked, if the I is an illusion, who is that cast offs the illusion? Bhagwan said, the I cast off the illusion of the I and yet remains I. Such is the paradox of self realization. The realized do not see any paradox in it. Consider the case of the worshipper. He approaches God and prays to be absorbed in Him. He then surrenders himself in faith and by concentration, and what remains afterwards? In the place of the original I, self surrender leaves a residuum of God in which the I is lost. That is the highest form of devotion or surrender and the peak of detachment. You may give up this and that of my possessions, but if instead you give up, I and my all is given up at the stroke, and the very seed of possession is destroyed. Thus, the evil is nipped in the bud or crushed in the germ. But detachment must be very strong to do this. The craving to do it must equal the craving of a man who is held under water to rise to the surface and breathe. Mr. Bhargava also said something about sleep, and this led Bhagwan to speak about sleep as follows. What is required is to remain fixed in the self always. The obstacles to that are distraction by things of the world, including sense objects, desires, and tendencies on the one hand, and sleep on the other. Sleep is always mentioned in the book as the fixed first obstacle to samadhi, or various methods and are prescribed for overcoming it according to the stage of evolution of the person concerned. First, one is enjoined to give up all worldly distractions and to restrict sleep. But then it is said, for instance, in the Gita, that one need not give up sleep entirely. One should not sleep at all during daytime, and even during night restrict sleep to the middle portion from about 10 to 2. But another method that is prescribed is not to bother about sleep at all. Whenever it overtakes you, you can do nothing about it, so simply remain fixed in the self or in meditation every moment of your waking life, and take up meditation again the moment you wake, and that will be enough. Then, even during sleep, the same current of thought or meditation will be working. This is evident because if a man goes to sleep with any strong thought working in his mind, he finds the same thought present when he wakes up. It is of the man who does this with meditation that it is said that even his sleep is samadhi. Devotee asked, when I reach the thoughtless stage in my sadhana, I enjoy a certain pleasure, but sometimes I also experience a vague fear which I cannot properly describe. Bhagwan said, whatever you experience, you should never rest content with it. Whether you feel pleasure or fear, ask yourself who feels it and continue your efforts until both pleasure and fear are transcended and all duality ceases and the reality alone remains. There is nothing wrong in such things being experienced, but you must never stop at that. For instance, you must never rest content with the pleasure of laya, dissolution, experienced when thought is quelled, but must press on until all duality ceases. In the afternoon, the following questions were put by Mr. Bhargava, an elderly visitor from Jhansi in Uttar Pradesh. First, how am I to search for the I from start to finish? Second, when I meditate, I reach a state where there is a vacuum or void. How should I proceed from there? Bhagwan said, never mind whether there are visions or sounds or anything else, or whether there is void. Are you present during all those, or are you not? You must have been there during the void to be able to say that you experienced a void. To be fixed in that you is the quest from start to finish. In all books on Vedanta, you will find this question of a void or nothing being left raised by the disciple and answered by the Guru. It is the mind that sees objects and has experiences and that finds a void when it ceases to see and experience. But that is not you. You are the constant illumination that lights up both the experience and the void. It is like the theatre light that enables you to see the theatre, the actors, and the play while the play is going on, but also remains a light and enables you to say that there is no play on when it is all finished. Or there is another illustration. We see objects all around us, but in complete darkness. We do not see them, and we say, I see nothing. In the same way, you are there even in the void you mention. You are the witness of the three bodies, the gross, the subtle, and the causal, and of the three times past, present, and future, and also this void. In the story of the 10th man, when each of them counted and thought they were only 9, each one forgetting to count himself, there is a stage when they think one is missing and do not know who is it, and that corresponds to the void. We are so accustomed to the notion that all that we see around us is permanent and that we are this body, that when all this ceases to exist, we imagine and fear that we also have ceased to exist. Bhagwan said, the nature of the self or I must be illumination. You perceive all modifications and their absence. How? To say that you get the illumination from another would raise the question how he got it, and there would be no end to the chain of reasoning. So, you yourself are the illumination. The usual illustration of this is the following. You make all kinds of sweets of various ingredients and in various shapes, and they all taste sweet because there is sugar in all of them, and sweetness is the nature of sugar. And in the same way, all experiences and the absence of them contain the illumination, which is the nature of the self. Without the self, they cannot be experienced, just as without sugar, not one of the articles you may can taste sweet. First, one sees the self as objects, then one sees the self as void, then one sees the self as the self. Only in this last case, there is no seeing because seeing is being. Mr. Evans Vantage asked a few questions. They related to yoga. He wanted to know if it was right to kill animals such as tigers, deer, and so on, and use the skin as a seat for the yoga postures. Bhagwan said the mind is the tiger or the deer. Devotee asked, if everything is illusion, can one then take life? Bhagwan said, who has the illusion? That is what you must find out. In fact, everyone is a killer of the self, Atma, at every moment of his life. Devotee asked, which posture is the best? Bhagwan said, any posture, possibly Sukhasana. the easy or half Buddha posture, but that is immaterial for Gyan, the path of knowledge. Devotee asked, does posture indicate temperament? Bhagwan said yes. Devotee asked, what are the properties and effects of a tiger's skin or wool or a deer's skin as a seed? Bhagwan said, some people have found out and described them in books on yoga. They correspond to conductors and non conductors of magnetism and so on. But all this is of no importance on the path of knowledge, Gyan Marga. Posture really means steadfastness in the self, and it is inward. Devotee asked, which is the most suitable time for meditation? Bhagwan said, what is time? Devotee asked, tell me what it is. Bhagwan said, time is only an idea, there is only reality. Whatever you think it is, it appears to be. If you call it time, it is time. If you call it existence, it is existence, and so on. After calling it time, you divide it into days and nights, months, years, hours, minutes, and so on. Time is immaterial for path of knowledge, but some of these rules and disciplines are good for beginners. Devotee asked, does Bhagwan recommend any special posture for Europeans? Bhagwan said, it depends on the mental equipment of the individual. There are no hard and fast rules. Devotee asked, is meditation to be practiced with eyes open or closed? Bhagwan said, it may be done either way. The important thing is that the mind should be turned inward and kept active in its quest. Sometimes it happens that when the eyes are closed, latent thought rush forth with great vigor. But on the other hand, it may be difficult to turn the mind inwards with the eyes open. It requires strength of mind. The mind is pure by nature but contaminated by taking in objects. The great thing is to keep it active in its quest without taking in external impressions or thinking of other things. Devotee said, it is said in some books that one should cultivate all the good or divine qualities in order to prepare oneself for self realization. Bhagwan said, all good or divine qualities are included in spiritual knowledge, and all bad or demonic qualities are included in ignorance. When knowledge comes, ignorance goes, and all the divine qualities appear automatically. If a man is self realized, he cannot tell a lie or commit a sin or do anything wrong. It is no doubt said in some books that one should cultivate one virtue after another and thus prepare for ultimate realization. But for those who follow the Gyan Marga, path of knowledge, self inquiry is quite enough for inquiring all the divine qualities. They need not do anything else. Devotee asked, please tell me how I am to realize the self. Am I to make an incantation of who am I? Bhagwan said, no, it is not intended to be used an incantation. Self inquiry is a different method from the meditation I am Shiva or I am He. I rather lay stress on self knowledge because you are first concerned with yourself. Before you proceed to know the world and its Lord, the I am He or I am Brahm, meditation is more or less mental, but the quest for the self, or which I speak, is a direct method and is superior to the other. For as soon as you undertake the quest and begin to go deeper and deeper, the real self is awaiting there to receive you, and then whatever is done by something else and you have no hand in it. In this process, all doubts are automatically given up, just as one who sleeps forgets all his cares for the time being. Although the scriptures proclaim, thou art that, It is only a sign of weakness to meditate. I am that, not this, because you are eternally that. What has to be done is to investigate what one really is and remain that. Only if the thought, I am a body, occurs will the meditation, I am not this, I am that, help one to abide as that. Why should you forever be thinking, I am that? Is it necessary for a man to go on thinking, I am a man? Are we not always that? A Punjabi announced himself to the Maharishi as having been directed here by Sri Shankaracharya of Kamakoti Pitha from Jaleshwar near Puri Jagannath. He is a world traveler. He has practiced Hatha Yoga and sun contemplation along with lines of I am Brahm. After a few months, blank prevails. His brain gets heated and he becomes afraid of death. He wants guidance from the Maharishi. Bhagwan said, who sees the blank? Devotee said, I know that I see it. Bhagwan said, the consciousness overlooking the blank is the self. Devotee said, that doesn't satisfy me, I can't realize it. Bhagwan said, the fear of death arises only after the I thought arises. Whose death do you fear? To whom does the fear come? So long as there is identification of the self with the body, there will be fear. Devotee said, but I am not aware of my body. Bhagwan said, Bhagwan asked, who says that he is not aware? Devotee said, I don't understand. He was then asked to say what exactly was his method of meditation. He said, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahm. Bhagwan said, I am Brahm is only a thought. Who says it? Brahm himself doesn't say so. What need is there for him to say it? Nor can the real I say so, for I always abides as Brahm, so it is only a thought. Whose thought is it? All thought come from the unreal I, that is the I thought. Remain without thinking. So long as there is thought, there will be fear. Devotee said, when I go on thinking on this line, forgetfulness ensues. The brain becomes heated and I become afraid. Bhagwan said, yes, the mind is concentrated in the brain and hence you get a hot sensation there. That is because of the I thought. So long as there is thought, there will be forgetfulness. There is the thought, I am Brahm, then forgetfulness supervenes, then I thought arises, and simultaneously the fear of death also. Forgetfulness and thought exist only for the I thought. Investigate this and it will disappear like a phantom. What remains then is the real I, that is the self. The thought I am Brahm may be an aid to concentration insofar as it keeps other thoughts away and persists alone. But then you have to ask whose thought it is. It will be found to come from the I. But where does the I thought come from? Probe into it and it will vanish. The Supreme Self will shine forth of itself. No further effort is needed. When the real one, I remains alone, it will not need to say, I am Brahm. Does a man go on repeating, I am a Brahm, I am a man? Unless he is trained, why should he declare himself a man? Does anyone mistake himself for an animal that he should say, no, I am not an animal, I am a man? Similarly, since Brahm or I alone is, there is no one to challenge it, and so there is no need to repeat, I am Brahm. Devotee is a set meditation necessary for strengthening the mind. Bhagwan said, not if you keep the idea always before you that it is not your work. At first, effort is needed to remind yourself of it, but later on it becomes natural and continuous. The work will go on of its own accord and your peace will remain undisturbed. Meditation is your true nature. You call it meditation now because there are other thoughts distracting you. When these thoughts are dispelled, you remain alone. That is, in the state of meditation, free from thoughts, and that is your real nature, which you are now trying to realize by keeping away other thoughts. Such keeping away of other thoughts is now called meditation, but when the practice becomes firm, your real nature shows itself as true meditation. Devotee said, "May I be assured that there is nothing further to be learned so far as the technique of spiritual practice is concerned, that what is written in Bhagwan's book. I ask because in all other systems the Guru holds back some secret technique to reveal to his disciple at the time of initiation. Bhagwan said there is nothing more to be known than what you find in the books, no secret techniques. It is all an open secret in this system. Hari Om Tat Sat.